Hi everybody, my name is Victoria and welcome to my April wrap-up. I hope you're all doing well at this time. We made it through another month somehow, and I actually had a really good reading month this month. I read 7 books, which is a lot more than is typical for me. I usually average 5 books, so 7 books was really good. And I also really enjoyed pretty much everything I read. I had nothing lower than a 4-star book this month, which was honestly nothing short of a miracle. So we just read a lot of good books this month and I'm excited to share them with you. The first book that I finished in the month of April was Anne of Windy Poplars, and this is part of the Anne-along that we are doing with Tia and Amanda, and now we're about halfway through the series, which is really exciting. There's 8 books in the series and this is the 4th one. This one follows Anne as she is actually displaced a little bit to go and work at a different school. So in these books we're actually taken away from the environment that we are used to, which I think was ultimately what I didn't like as much about this book. I missed some of the characters that we didn't really interact with this time around, like Marilla and Gilbert. Anne is sort of on her own in this one in a new environment. In this book, we have more of an anecdotal style of writing. It's very much mini stories within a main story. And that also was a little bit, I think, more disjoint than some of the other books. We get a sense of that in the other books, I think, as well. But in this one, it was definitely more so about the community and the antics of the different people and the eccentric personalities of the different people in this new town, and it was less about Anne. And I think that's really what ultimately made me knock it down a star. It's a 4-star book for me this time around. So it's the first one that I was kind of a little bit disappointed in, and I don't want to say disappointed because it was still really good. It's very funny. There's a lot of comedy in this one. The characters are quite ridiculous and very entertaining. It was just not, I thought, as cohesive of a story, and I just missed our already familiar characters that we were kind of taken away from in this book. Nonetheless, I still thought it was a really solid entry in the series, and I gave this book 4 stars. The next book that I finished in April was The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. This was on my list of 20 books to get to in 2020, which I feel like I'm doing pretty well with that list. I haven't actually counted how many books I've gotten through by now that I put on that list, but The Secret Garden was one of them, and this one I really enjoyed too. This one is so warm and sweet, and it's all about the children in this book really growing and coming into their own and blooming along with the garden that they're learning to take care of, which I thought was a very sweet metaphor. And I had a lot of nostalgia with The Secret Garden because I used to watch the animated version of it when I was a kid, which I have no idea where that movie is or how to find it. I'd be curious to watch it again. And I also used to watch a live action version of it, maybe from the 80s or 90s. I don't remember, but you might know what adaptation I'm talking about. But The Secret Garden follows a young girl named Mary, and when we meet her, she's pretty quickly orphaned, and then she is whisked away to this uncle, and this uncle is going to take care of her, but the uncle is a little bit mysterious. He is never around. She's more being raised by the servants in the household. Mary is an absolutely horrid little girl when we meet her, and she's very hard to like, but you also have a little bit of sympathy for her at the beginning because she's kind of having a hard time of it. I think what makes the characters initially a little bit hard to relate to is some of the racist sentiments that they present, and those racist sentiments aren't really ever addressed, so that was a little bit jarring. This book obviously is written a long time ago and so I know those racist sentiments were there, but I was a little bit disappointed that they were never like corrected or addressed. They were just presented. So that was definitely an interesting surprise for me while I was reading it. The rest of the story is beautiful though, and it's a very kind of small part of the book when they talk about that stuff. But overall, I did really like this book. I liked the message, the morals. Interestingly enough, I did a little research on this book after I read it, and Frances Hodgson Burnett, her name is so hard to say, she was a little bit involved with Christian Science. And now knowing that, I can see a lot of those like beliefs and themes in this book, which is a really interesting perspective that I didn't really have before while reading it. It's an interesting little research project if you want to learn a little bit about Christian Science. If you have some knowledge on that, it actually brings to light some of the themes in this book, and I just found that really fascinating. I'm not going to go into it too much here, but yeah, The Secret Garden, I give this 4 stars. I really enjoyed reading this book. It's a charming children's book. Not sure I would read it to my kids because there's definitely some things that are a little bit questionable, but it was good. The next book that I finished in April was Beach Read by Emily Henry. I, for the first time ever, ordered a Book of the Month box and had a really good time with this book. I actually did a separate book review for this, and I will link it down below or in the cards if you want to go check out my book review. I'm not going to go into it as much in this wrap-up, but I really enjoyed this. It's a contemporary romance. It's not a genre I pick up very much, but the premise of this just sounded really fun. And it was also surprisingly deep and emotional. I ended up giving this book 5 stars, and you can go check out my review if you want to hear any more in-depth thoughts, but I loved this one. The next book that I finished in the month of April was Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson, and this was a long time coming. I've been very excited to read the Cosmere books, and this has been the year for me to read the Cosmere books. I know there's a readathon called the Cosmere Along that I'm kind of loosely following along with. I should probably be better about following along with where they are at and which series we're supposed to read right now. I think it's this one, but I actually buddy read this with Rainey Day Reads, and we had a really good time talking about it and going through it together. The setting of this book is sort of a post-apocalyptic fantasy world, and the society that we are dropped into is just a little bit of a mess, and it has a lot of politics, a lot of oppression, and we meet our main character Vin, who is a street urchin. When we meet her, she's a thief. She just survives by joining up with these local thievery groups, and she's a very jaded character. She's very me against the world, and she's just had a hard time of it. Through a series of events, Vin discovers she has kind of hidden powers that she didn't know about, and this book is all about her discovering those powers and the new people that she meets through those powers, people teaching her how to use those powers. So before this, I read Elantris a couple months ago, and I really loved Elantris, but I definitely noticed the difference between his writing in this book versus Elantris. In Elantris, I felt like you had a lot of build-up and then you had the action. And what I liked about Mistborn was you had information being given to you in bits and pieces alongside action. So it's definitely a more fast-paced action type of book, but you also get that gradual world building where you just get like layer after layer revealed. And I thought that was really well done in this book. It makes it very compulsively readable. I think even if you're not a super fantasy fan, I think you can enjoy Mistborn because of the style that it's written in. I can see what people say about Brandon Sanderson being an amazing world builder, because that is definitely very evident in this book. And as soon as I finished it, I really just wanted to jump back in. And that is, I think, a testament to a great novel when you don't want to leave the world, you just want to read it again. Luckily, there's more in the series, and Rainey Day Reads and I will be continuing buddy reading The Well of Ascension, which is the next book in the series, and I'm stoked. I can't wait to get into it. I'm about 50 pages into the second book, so very excited to find out what happens to my sweet baby Vin. Vin is my baby. I only want good things to happen to Vin. I love this character. She's amazing. After that, I took a break and went to something a little bit lighter, and that was Fruits Basket. I have been very gradually, very slowly reading through the Fruits Basket manga series, and I'm not a big manga reader. I don't really know how to review these, to be honest. I enjoy them, but I don't know how to talk about them when I film these reviews. So this was volume 9. It was fun. This one was very dramatic. There was some big dramatic reveals. This series is very much about the relationship between the characters, the friendships between the characters, and this one just had a lot of drama. I don't know what else to say about the series. It's been a fun time, and I have, 3 more volumes? Yes, 3 more volumes. I actually, for some reason, thought I had already read volume 9, but then I looked through it and I was like, I don't think I've read it. And on Goodreads, I hadn't marked it as read yet, so yeah, I was very confused. I guess it's been a while since I have picked this up. Yeah, I think I haven't read it since last December or November, so I definitely don't remember a lot of the details from volume to volume, and I think that's something that kind of sort of hinders me, but also, I don't know, I don't think you need to remember all the details to enjoy these volumes. But I have a hard time also keeping characters straight in this and all the characters' names, so I don't know, I'm doing my best. It's a good time. So in March, I had a birthday, and I got an Amazon card from my mom, and I treated myself to the rest of the Harry Potter illustrated editions that I did not own. So I got the Chamber of Secrets, the illustrated version, and I also got Azkaban and Goblet of Fire also, which I haven't gotten to yet. But I did read this one in April, and I'm just loving the experience of rereading Harry Potter. This is the first time I'm rereading it ever in my life, and I'm really enjoying the experience. In this one, I was really struck by how much foreshadowing there is, and obviously knowing the story now, it was much easier to catch all of those things and to kind of see where the story is going. And it's probably something I didn't notice the first time I read Harry Potter. So this one was very beautiful as always. The illustrations are just wonderful. In this book we meet Dobby and Moaning Myrtle, who are 2 of my favorite Harry Potter characters. And then I also, once I finished reading this, I watched the movie with my husband. And I don't want to say that I like the movies more than the books, because I feel like that's sacrilegious. But I think the movies really just visually bring everything to life in a way that I think I don't necessarily get out of the books. But I don't know, I've definitely been enjoying watching the movies directly after reading the book, and I find myself kind of enjoying the movie experiences a little bit more. I know I'm probably gonna get some flack for that, but nonetheless, I did like this one a lot. For some reason I thought that I didn't like this volume as much, but I did. I think the story is definitely not as complicated as some of the later books. Obviously, it's only the 2nd book, but I still really enjoyed it. I enjoyed what happens in the world. It's much darker as well than the 1st volume, which I appreciated, that it was a little bit more gritty and bleak and dark. So yeah, I don't know what else to say, but this was a fun reread, and of course I highly recommend the illustrated editions. I think there's just no better way to read these, honestly, because these are just gorgeous. And then the last book that I read in April was Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. This is also on my 20 books to get to in 2020. So I'm very excited to have a Grisha book now under my belt. I've heard a lot of people talk about the Grisha series for a long time since I've been on BookTube, and now I finally kind of know a little bit about the world and what it's about. In this story we follow Alina, and Alina is, when we meet her, a soldier in an army. She's a relatively skilled fighter, but one day when she is tasked with crossing what they call the Fold, it's basically like a whole stretch of darkness where there's these evil monsters called Volcra, and when she is in danger and the whole army is in danger, she actually discovers she has a power that she didn't know she had, and she saves everyone from that danger, but she also draws attention to herself by the elite magical group called the Grisha, and the Grisha kind of are like the nobility of the world, and they kind of run the world, and so they take Alina, and in particular there's a character named the Darkling, and the Darkling is basically trying to train Alina of how to use her powers, and there's a lot of political intrigue. There's a lot of kind of backstabbing, and you're uncertain who to trust, and this was really fun. This is also in a Russian backdrop fantasy setting, which is unique, and I haven't really read a fantasy with a Russian backdrop before, personally. There's probably more out there, but I just haven't read them yet. And I really liked that setting. I thought it was a very like rich and colorful setting. I liked that maybe the most out of this series. I just thought that was really unique and original and just fun to read. I don't know why I initially thought I wasn't going to like this, or that it was like poorly written. I don't think it's poorly written. I know it's one of her earlier books, so I'm very excited to see how she grows as an author, because I really enjoyed this, and I can tell she's got some serious good writing chops, and so I'm just really looking forward to continuing with her work and watching her grow as an author, and move along with Leigh Bardugo's very popular crowd. I know she's got a big fan club, and maybe I'll be in that fan club. We'll see. But I gave this 4 stars. The ending really gripped me. I couldn't put it down for the last 100 pages. So it was really fun, and I thought really well crafted, and I'm excited to see what happens in the rest of the series. So I will be continuing with the series in the month of May. Those are all the books that I read in the month of April. Let me know if you've read any of these, if you have any thoughts. Let me know what was your favorite book that you read in April. Again, in this crazy time, I hope you're doing well. I know everybody is kind of in a different place. Some people have lost their jobs. Some people are getting used to working at home. Just hang in there and keep reading great books. And reach out to the online community. We're all in this together. And I hope you're all doing well. My bookish media links are linked down below if you want to follow me on Goodreads or Instagram. And until next time, I will chat with you in the comments. Bye-bye.